Yes.
Welcome to Standing on Business with Eric Foss. I'm your host, Eric Foss. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Standing on Business with Eric Foss. I'm your host, Eric Foss. All right, guys, tonight we're going to get into white prison gangs. Now, if you're familiar with the channel, or if you're new, let me just say this real quick. People who are familiar know this. I'm not a historian. I'm not going to go into books and get every exact date, do that kind of stuff. I'm going to speak from things that I know, different stories I know that people I've been around, some gang members I've been around myself, you know, just everything like that, and just give my perspectives on certain things and all. So I'm going to start. I did my most time in the federal system, so I only did 6 years in the state back in the day, but I will go into state prison gangs. I know a little bit about. I'll get into the DMI thing because I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, so I know a little bit about them. So we'll get around to that. But all right, guys, let's get started. One of the mistakes people make is, especially like people who don't know no better, everybody from the outside world, or even people like of other races, stuff like that. Every time they see like a white gang, like with the, you know, the swastikas, the, you know, what I'm talking about, the Nazi signs and all that kind of stuff, they always say AB. Okay, and you also go into different states, and now it's formed, different states have ABs. Okay, and that means Aryan Brotherhood. But the original Aryan Brotherhood is something called the Brand. Now, what they started at over there in California, and they started as a prison gang. And basically, you know, the same thing that most gangs and constitutions of gangs are, you know, to protect each other, everything like that, from predators, other inmates, you know, other gangs. So that form now, with them, they're not, or they at least weren't formed as a white supremacist gang. They weren't a white power gang, or I should say aren't. Basically, because if you look back in like on their history and stuff like that, they've had other people like the guys from the Pacific Islanders and stuff like that were in there and things. So, and they were involved with them somehow. And also their patch is that Irish clover. That's their patch, not the Nazi sign. A lot of these gangs have their patches that'll say like say SAC or something. They'll have that, and they'll have a Nazi sign with it or whatever. So they're not actually a white power gang. But with that being said, when you get into federal prison, you will never run across them really. And you'll definitely never run across them at any levels below a penitentiary. They don't go below penitentiaries. So the guys who were in these mediums and lows and stuff saying they're part of that, there's something wrong, because they don't go below that. And honestly, most of them, when I was locked up, were held in ADX. There was one or something on the yard at Big Sandy before I got there, and he got into a crash out or whatever, and something with the ABTs or whatever. So they weren't even there when I was there. So I've never actually met one. Now, I believe there was only 19 of them, real active type members, and they were all put away different places. You know, they'll move them around so they can't pull a lot of influence. Now, I don't know what's happened from this time, from the time point where I was in, but they used to have a farm team, basically, that was around a lot of penitentiary yards. It was called the Nazi Lowriders. I don't know a lot about them, but I do know that was their farm team. Like, when I say farm team, any sports fan will know that's like your minor leagues ready to get brought up. You know what I mean? Like how they do in the mob. They'll have Bath Avenue crew. That was, you know, the Bananas farm team. You know, they make guys out of that. Same thing. So I think there's been a falling out since then between the two, but I'm not sure. But they derived to a lot of power with prison stuff. And what I mean by that is just like, you know, doing prison hits. They weren't taking they weren't taking nobody who wasn't ready to kill like that. And that's just a fact. And they're very violent people, very calculated. They've done they've done a lot of things, like the war. They had a war with DC blacks back in I think the early 90s in Lewisburg. Somebody's head got chopped off. I mean, it was really crazy stuff. And these guys were able to do the hit. You know, they're part of the hit from ADX, somehow sending coded messages, whatever. The guy, I think Barry Mills and some other, I forget the other guy's name, but I'm sure somebody will know it. But anyway, they also had that guy in there. They killed the correctional officers in Marion when Marion was the ADX. Silverstein, Tommy Silverstein. So they had a lot of people that are just like really wild, vicious people. No remorse, cold-blooded. And a lot of them are old and I guess dying off and stuff like that. But one thing about it, they were the originals. And that's where a lot of people will say AB. Now, there's a bunch of other white gangs that I will never have believed, you know, until I got locked up and went to a penitentiary in the feds. There's a gang, they're called SAC. Soldiers of Aryan Culture, I believe that's what it stands for. Now, they're based out of Utah. Now, I've been around a few of them. They were all right, you know, but they are a white power gang. They got the Swazis, whatever. But, you know, every one of them that I ever met and talked to, they were never like, you know, they were what they were. I was how I am. They were never like a judgmental person, anything like that. And I wasn't judgmental of them. You know, we just have different beliefs and things like that. But a few examples of them. Now, this is a story that I got secondhand or whatever, but a penitentiary story that the actual founders of that gang, I'm not sure if the guy was an original founder or then it was something, but it's some guy named Taz, I believe. Well, anyway, as the folklore goes with them, these guys are from Utah, and they were street kids. You know, they hustled and everything, listened to rap music, whatever. It was a few of them. And at that time, I guess things changed, but we're talking about a long time ago. We're talking about like when I was growing up, and I'm close to 50. Back in them days, I guess you couldn't be a white blood, okay? And these guys were actually thought they were Bloods or whatever. So they wound up going to jail or prison or something, or maybe it was just their county jail, I don't know. They wound up getting into a beef with some people. Now, when they got into the beef, now these dudes were thorough. They go to get the Bloods or whatever because they're Bloods. Well, the Blood dude, shot caller, whatever, black dude, whatever, he told him, he said, look, he said, you know, ain't no problem or nothing like that, but y'all ain't Bloods. And he explained to them that they weren't Bloods, they couldn't be real Bloods, whatever. So, at that point, the dude went and he formed his own thing. Now, this is a story, you know what I mean? So, I don't know all in the history books, whatever, I don't know if but I've heard this story a few times. So, anyway, so the dude goes and he forms his own thing, SAC, and makes it a white power gang out there in Utah, prison gang, and I'm sure spills over to the streets. So he does that, and from, like I said, from my being around them, they have a different type of recruiting process. Like, they kind of like model it after the ABs, because I've seen like they would pay attention to the people who would, you know, really, they just weren't taking anybody, put it that way. But I've seen them get into a few conflicts and stuff like that. They're pretty, you know, pretty crazy, whatever. So that was another one. Now, also in Utah, they do got another gang, and I met one of the gang members, but it's a state prison gang. It's called SAW, Sacred Aryan Warriors or something, I believe. I only met one guy who was in that. So, and he was in federal prison, and it wasn't really recognized. Just like in federal prison, some of the state prison gangs, you know, you'll see people and stuff like that, but they're really not recognized, or at least at the time I was doing my bid, they weren't recognized. Even like DMI really wasn't recognized in the feds. When in the penitentiary, no, it wasn't. But like times change and things grow, whatever. They spread to different places. But that's the two ones from Utah. Now, you get a lot of them coming out of Texas. Now, your main two, and the ones that I've once again been around, was the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. Okay, now, thing about Texas, and I notice about like the gang stuff and things like this, I think there's a little competition type thing with California or something, because even with the Mexicans, like you got the Texas Mexican Mafia and the syndicates and stuff like that. And out there in California, you have the Emmy, the Mexican Mafia, which is over top of all the Serranos, everything like that. So it's like there's like a little like, I don't know, tension, maybe competition or whatever. But like I don't believe that at my time going through that the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas was getting along with the brand Aryan Brotherhoods at, at Cali or whatever. So but these things change as time goes on. But a little bit about them, the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas, they were like they were like more just wilder in a way. Like, they did a lot of stuff. They did like to drink a lot, which everybody does, but they did some pretty vicious things. Some people in that, I've seen them do some things and stuff. Couple of them were like cool to a distance, but like they had some like troublemakers, and like, they did one of their guys. I've seen them do one of their own guys really dirty. I think the guy's paralyzed to this day. So they really jump off and go hard. Now, another thing I heard about Texas also, and this is a state prison. I don't know how true this is, but I mean, I know it was true at one point in time or something like it. But the guys I talked to from Texas would tell me that the state prison, if you go in there and you're flagged for being in any of them security threat groups, and this isn't just the white ones, this is all of them, Crips, Bloods, whatever, all serious gangs, and you were flagged for being a person like, I guess maybe higher up in it, or just like a real person on their count, the police's count, you would have to do all your time. Say you got 10 years, 20 years, you got to do all your time on lockup until you denounce that gang or something like that. I think that was the rules in Texas, in their state. So that would really suck. You know what I mean? Say you get 25 years, have to do the whole thing with lockup. Or now remember, this is just I've heard this secondhand. I've heard it a few times, so I don't know what the law has changed. Anybody from Texas knows anything about that? Want to put something in the comments? Please, feel free. I tell everybody, this show, you could make your comments. You know what I mean? Another one that was, I thought was based out of Texas. I believe, yeah, but they're other places too. All these places are other places. You might have a guy in the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas who's from Michigan. Okay, you might. So just because the label is there doesn't mean that the person has to be from there. I guess that's just where it formed. Okay, now Aryan Circle, the Aryan Circle. Once again, I believe based out of Texas. They're a little bit more, from what I was around, they're kind of a little bit hip hop. They still have the Swazis and stuff like that, but the ones that I was around, they were younger, which they're older now, but I mean, I was younger also, but like, they were like more like hip hop, listen to rap music, stuff like that. And let me say this, a lot of these gangs, these white racist gangs or whatever, they're white power gangs and all, but like the dudes in there, a lot of the dudes in there aren't even racist, to be honest with you, not truthfully. You know what I mean? But some are, but for the majority, no. But the Aryan Circle, they were more joking around types, partied, whatever, drugs, alcohol. They'll do their little thing. They'll jump somebody. They'll put in their work. Like all these gangs, you got to put in work in these penitentiaries, things like that. That's why it's never good to join these things. So you have them. Now, who else would you have in the feds? Aryan Circle. I know I'm missing somebody. I'm definitely missing somebody. Aryan Circle, SAC, Saul. Let's get into let's get into hop over to state prison. We'll go into once again, I'm not a member of none of this, and I would suggest to any younger people, anything like that, don't join any gangs. It's not a good thing in the end, and I'll explain that to you. And I'm not putting down gangs or nothing either. I'm just, most people will agree with me, even the people in them. Well, let's talk about DMI. DMI, Dead Man Incorporated. That's a Baltimore gang, and Maryland, and it branched out. There's Virginia, there's everything like that. I know people in it. I know, I got good friends who were in it. I also know a lot of people in it. You know what I mean? I'm from Baltimore. Been getting locked up my whole life, and that's basically what it is. So, little thing on them. I think what happened was there's a dude, Rock, Perry Rourke. He was in prison, robbed a lumberyard down in Dundalk or whatever. So he's from like southeast Baltimore, maybe Dundalk if he was from Baltimore County, I'm not sure. Anyway, he was a thorough dude. He goes gets 25 years or something like that. So he's up in the cut. Incident happens. You know what I mean? He would go hard. I mean, the dude would go hard in the joint. You know what I mean? If you look him up, I don't want to say the guy's guilty of anything, but there's alleged he's got a few bodies with his hands in the joint. So. Anyway, he gets, where we're from, the race thing isn't segregated and all that kind of stuff. So he hangs around like a lot of guys in the BGF, things like that. So he's close with them or whatever. And the rumor said that he wanted to join them, but he can't. It's Black Guerrilla family. You can't be white and do it. But they gave him his blessings to go ahead and start his own thing. So he started that DMI stuff. That had to be in the late 90s, I believe. So we started that. He started that with the guy Sweeney, James Sweeney, and Brian Jordan. These were guys, they were in state prison, went hard. They see cliques of white guys. Now DMI is a white gang, but technically it's not. You could be any race and be in it. There is people from other races, but for the most part, it's designed as a white gang. So I guess them three started. So when they started, things spill out of hand. You give certain people a certain amount of power. People just start getting, everybody's got their chest out. And when these constitutions with these gangs come, like it was all the same thing. Oh, you're my brother, watch my back, this and that. It's about this, about that. Just like the mob, just like anything, any of these things. But it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And the bigger you get, the more numbers you get, the more bullshit you're going to get. And that's a fact. But so that DMI thing, that sped out of control. And basically what that did was the guy Rock, he was only doing 25 years. He would have been home a while back, but they indicted him for that gang. The feds wound up indicting him. And him, Brian, and the guy Sweeney, they all got life with the feds. And see, that's not a joke. That was the thing. When the feds got hold of him, you're done. You're dead meat. Now, Rock's had some instances in the feds where he, allegedly took care of somebody with his hands again or whatever down in Atwood or whatever. So then he sent him out of ADX, whatever. Like I said, the guy goes pretty hard. Clear up a rumor. People said he ratted in court. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. I seen a newspaper article that came out. Let me explain something to you. One thing about it, when they do the newspaper articles, when you're in federal court, they'll sit there. What they're doing is going off of what the prosecutors were bringing the case on. You see what I'm saying? So it'll be like, you'll see like different parts of the discovery, and it'll be like, oh, so-and-so played good. But now, if he would have told, they would have blasted him, said he's willing to testify against people that he already did. You know what I mean? That's what they would do in the newspaper. They wouldn't just put that stupid thing in there. They'll put anything in there. And also, the guy copped out to a life sentence. Copping out to a life sentence with the feds. Let me say something. There's plenty of people with death penalty cases that rat, and they wind up getting 30 years in the feds. Like Rock is a peon to the feds. So in other words, they wouldn't make him cop out to a life sentence. Yeah, he's a big thing to people who don't know no better, and people in prison down here. But in the feds, the federal system, he's a peon, just straight peon. You know what I mean? So he didn't rat, or else he wouldn't have copped to a life sentence. So I don't know all the drama that goes on with them. Apparently, the guy Sweeney wanted to start the DMU thing or whatever, and make it a white power gang or whatever, because he was in Beaumont. He went hard in Beaumont too. He did, like anybody said anything about them guys, they went hard wherever they went. The dude Brian, he was one of my good friends was Sully and Pollock. He said he was a good dude, all right guy. He was cool. I think he was a young kid. He was 15 years old, got locked up for a body or something, and just it's sometimes life just does that to you. You know what I mean? But anyway, that DMI stuff, it spiraled out of control with the numbers, and now you just got anybody in it. And here's what I mean by that: you're pulling people in that are locked up for stealing razor blades, man. You know what I mean? And you're involving them in stuff, hits on people, which people die and stuff like that. What do you think these people are going to do when they get yanked out? You know, you're just pulling anybody in, people in Towson, people in the streets, people in this, people in that. None of it's any good. Let me do that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say to run it if you ran it a different way, because none of it would ever be any good. And I think a lot of them guys, you know, they regret being involved in certain things and things like that. But anybody who sits here, when you get into these places, okay, and especially in the federal penitentiaries, what happens is you get young guys, kids in their 20s, things like that, and they think that, you know, this is a way to survive. Now, these are violent places, so they may be a little bit scared, or they think it's a cool thing to do, or maybe, you know, they've never had So what happens with these kids when they come in, so now they want to be accepted, so now they want to get into things, and they could put themselves in a trick bag. And here's the first trick bag. I've seen this happen. You have a young guy come in, he's on drugs. He was on drugs on the street. That's why he came to prison. So he hooks up. Some of these gang guys, they've been around a while. So what they'll do is they'll see the guy gets a little bit of money from the street, whatever. They'll start getting him to buy the drugs. So now they catch their little habit or whatever. So now here's what they do. What they do to him is they'll then say, hey, I'm waiting on some money, blah, blah, blah. Can we go get this from, say, the Serranos on your name? So the guy will be like, oh, yeah, cool. Thinking that he's going to be repaid by his gang buddy, you know, or he's looking up to these gang guys. So now they'll go ahead, they'll run this debt up so fast. Debt'll be in the thousands. So now politics of the prison is the Serranos are going to come to whatever gang he's rolling around with. So now they go to the gang guy. Hey, homie, so-and-so owes all this money, blah, blah, blah. Damn, bro, does he? The gang guy knows it the whole time. But he's never going to pay him, so he's never going to pay him. This is a lot of money. He can't get it. But hey, what does the gang dude do? Now, he says, don't worry, bro. We'll take care of it. Shakes hands with the Serrano or the Mexican, whatever. Goes, and they fuck him up. They dog the kid that they just tricked into getting on them drugs. So now he gets stabbed, beat up, whatever. Now he's off the yard. Now, for the rest of his bid, he's a piece of trash. No matter where he goes, they're going to put bad names on him and stuff. Act like he's horrible. There's also going to be the Mexicans or whoever knows that the kid was, you know, owed money or whatever. But the truth never comes out. Then they go out, they take the Mexicans or whatever. They take them a couple pints of liquor or whatever, and everything's cool. They took care of the problem. Drug debt's gone. They get their liquor. Everything's fine. So that's the way these trick bags can work. It can also work with, man, you're entering into something. You're gonna be asked to do some work. If you go and do it, somebody lose their life. Trust what I tell you. There's gonna be people coming to court on you. It happens every time. I don't care what you think. But yeah, so we've had incidents like that in all of these prisons and with all of these gangs and stuff. And also, like, you know, I've seen people blast the tattoos over their face, you know, things like that. Like, what are you going to do with your life? And another thing is, like, a lot of times people, you know, you're signing up for something you don't believe in. Now, there is real people in this stuff. Like I said, there's people, it's real tough people, take you out, everything, you know, kill you. But for the most part, man, it's just a bad decision. And it's just, like, horrible, the results from it. And I think everybody would agree, you know. So, and like I said, when the numbers blow up too big, it just gets watered down. And that's when the bad things happen. I mean, you see, like down here in Maryland, we had the DMI indictment or whatever. I mean, I know people who were on that, you know, and then you get the gossiping. Like I was on in Schuylkill, some kid came there. He was involved in that. He was on that indictment, and he had like 3 years, 4 years. He's doing the drug program, everything like that. And he comes up to me, tells me Rock was a rat. I said, let's stop. I said, you guys are on the same indictment. That man got life. You got 4 years. I said, don't do that. You know, I said, I'm not into all your shit, but come on. And no, he's not. He didn't do that. So, you know, that's what you get to. A bunch of gossiping back and forth and things like that. And too many people in it. But you know what that happens with that? That's when the feds hear your name a lot of times. Because there will be somebody involved with that stuff who does do something. Now, you're underneath that. Now you're underneath that flag, and you might get brought in on indictment. So it's not really smart. A lot of the guys that have joined all these things, they don't, you know, they would tell you it was a bad decision. At the end of the day, what's happening in this day and age is, like I said, when I was in doing my time around them real gang members, them serious gang members, there was no such thing as white bloods. But now I've seen that there is actually white bloods nowadays. You know what I mean? So things change. Like I've corrected myself because I've always said, like, people from Baltimore, oh man, motherfuckers weren't in no gang. No, the truth of the matter is this, is like my age group, we weren't in gangs. We didn't have gangs. But these kids now are being born into this everywhere. They're being born into it in Baltimore. I mean, Crips, Bloods, whatever. You know what I mean? BGF's been around for a while, but I'm just talking about all these other gangs, DMI, Crips, Bloods, all these things like, and DMI's actually been around a while. But I hear we even got AB in Maryland somewhere. I was like, where the hell did that come from? But I mean, it just is what it is. That culture is taken over, you know, and my advice would be, you know, steer clear of it. It's just a bad thing. All right, guys, until next time, remember, like and subscribe, share this video. I'm going to be getting into a few more topics. I got a show dropping this week on Shooting the Dice. It's a show in the UK. Really nice guy. We did an interview, so he's dropping that this week on Friday. I'll share that too. And until next time, guys, remember, always stand on business.